Hey, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles post-game show. Bo Wulf and Jamie Lynch here to talk about the Eagles getting absolutely dominated. Completely point differential to death, 42-19, and an ugly loss to the San Francisco 49ers that drops them to 10-2 on the season. Just one game now ahead of both San Francisco and potentially the Dallas Cowboys heading into next week for the number one seed. A game in which they were outclassed on defense, a terrible performance after two really good drives to start. They then gave up 6 consecutive touchdown drives. We'll get to where that ranks in terms of all of the defensive performances in the entire NFL over the course of this season. Not very good. The offense starts hot, but cannot finish in the red zone. And really, it sort of just got away from them after that. You sort of saw why the Niners are so good playing from ahead. Jalen Hurts gets evaluated for a concussion, but returns in the game. Nick Sirianni opts not to go for it on fourth down when the game is still sort of within reach. And just an ugly performance that I think, Jamie, allows us to get rid of the narrative that this is like a mystical team that has a way to win that is just intangible. We can now say that, okay, this is a team that all along has had some flaws. Those flaws were a little bit exposed today, and they have a lot of work to do if they really want to get that number one seed and get in position for the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it was weird because their red zone streak had been 12 touchdowns in a row.
Yes.
And then they have those first 2 drives where they have the ball for 12, 13 minutes. And you're like, oh, this is great. And then they don't score the touchdowns. And you just kind of got a sinking feeling in your stomach of that's not going to be good enough today. You can't take touchdown opportunities and turn them into field goals and succeed. And it bit them. It was the second quarter happened and that team disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that we talked about in the pregame show, some of those things that were working against the Eagles, they're in the middle of this stretch, this tough gauntlet of games. They are, the Niners had extra rest coming into this game. The Eagles are coming off playing so many games on defense. This is not the right game to be so bad at linebacker with Christian Ellis and Nicholas Moore having to play the entire game on defense. And boy, did that come back to bite them. The middle of the field, a total disaster after those first 2 drives for the Eagles. But I don't want to take the blame off of the guys on the outside, because I thought Darius Slay was a big factor in this game.
Yeah,
plays.
You were groaning a lot at the soft coverage that I think Slay in particular, as well as some others. So
yeah, and I don't
why
know.
don't you sound off?
And I don't know if this is. I don't know if this is how they're coached to play defense today, or if this is the players themselves. But there were so many times in this game where they're just giving up the cushion of 10, 15 yards and beyond the first down. And Brock Purdy was not throwing the ball over their heads. He threw one ball over a guy's head, and that was to Christian McCaffrey over Nicholas Morrow's head. That does not count. And I thought one of the underrated huge plays in this game was in the middle of that, the start of that third offensive drive for the Niners after the Eagles have forced them to go 3 and out on the first 2 drives. And Brock Purdy is looking a little bit, uneasy. He's looking like he's back in this place where he's got some demons to exercise. And on 2nd and 15, Darius Slay, they just sort of give Brandon Ayuk like a 12-yard completion, no pressing off the line, and just give it to him. And then they get rolling downhill, and 6 touchdowns later, that they keep, they just dominate this Eagles team. They give up more points than they've given up all season long by defensive EPA per drive. Jamie, of the 382 performances for a defense this season in the NFL.
How did this rank?
This ranked 381st.
I was going to say it felt really bad.
One spot worse than when the Broncos gave up 70 points to the Dolphins. The only game worse was the Cardinals against the Niners earlier this season in Week 4. It was a little bit talent. It was a little bit scheme. It's hard to say without watching the All-22, but they were just completely dominated on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, did it end up being 6 touchdowns in a row? I know it was at least
so,
us. Yeah. I mean, that's just You're not going to win any game where that happens. But it did seem like, you can't really blame it on them playing 95 snaps last week. You can't really blame it. I mean,
Well, you don't
it's all
want
a
to pull a
part of
Niners
it.
and make excuses, right?
But
Like they were just
was-
completely outplayed in this game.
Yeah,
They were the worst team, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And it would help if the Eagles decided to, I don't know, tackle.
We talked about,
There was 3 or 4 plays today where it was just like one was Nicholas Morrow, one was
Bradley Roby just bouncing
Blankenship.
off of Brock Purdy. Blankenship had one.
Yeah, there was a bunch of missed tackles today that led to a lot of Debo big plays, and those are just backbreakers where you allow a touchdown where you had an open opportunity to tackle the guy, and it seemed like that was just happening over and over again today. And it was the worst day, I think, for Sean Desai and the defense thus far in the biggest spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. And just from watching it on TV, my gut reaction is that this felt a little bit more players than plays on defense.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Because there were guys in position, and also the defensive line, which they rely on to be dominant. They looked great in the beginning, and then they just sort of disappeared for stretches of this game.
Yeah, the pressure went away after the first quarter because they got them into 3rd and long situations on their first 2 drives, a 3rd and 12 and a 3rd and 14, and it seemed like Purdy had a little bit of the happy feet going on, didn't seem comfortable. And then from there on out, it was like he took a nice deep breath and relaxed, and the pass rush kind of disappeared. The change in the flow of the game from the first and second quarter was dramatic.
Yeah, it was wild.
I don't know what happened and how you come out looking that good and like you're going to control the clock for that much and then just disappearing.
Brock Purdy in this game, 19 of 27 for 314 yards and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, a quarterback rating of 148.8, only sacked twice. Christian McCaffrey, 17 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown to go along with 3 catches for 40 yards. Deebo Samuel had 3 rushes for 22 yards and 4 catches for 116 yards, 3 touchdowns total. He certainly backed up his smack talk. Brandon Ayuk
Sure did.
5 for 46 and a touchdown. Just big numbers across the board for that offense. And for the defense, there were a couple times where it felt like they had a chance to make an impact in the game after those first 2 drives, specifically after the Dre Greenlaw punching DiSandro, which we will get to.
Yeah.
The Eagles cut the lead to 6 at that point. Can you get a stop? Not even close.
No, not even a little bit. And
although that was another one where it was they had a chance. They stopped them on 1st and 2nd down with good run defense. 3rd and 7. 3rd and long has been a problem for this defense all season long. And Brock Purdy throws it to Ayuk on Darius Slay again giving him the cushion of getting the first down.
Yeah, the 3rd down defense is definitely one of the more concerning things.
8 of 11 on 3rd down for the Niners in this game.
Yeah, that's inexcusable. That's not going to lead you to a Super Bowl come February. They got to figure that out, and it seems like they have to be top 5 worst on 3rd and long. I would say top 2 worst. Like that's what it feels like.
Yes, I believe they were like top 5 worst heading into this game, and it's not going to be better after this game.
No, not at all. And I thought the one, and there's no way to say this without sounding like I'm bitching about the refs. I thought the officiating was crap today. It's not the reason the Eagles lost. The Eagles got their asses whooped, so I'm just trying to preface that. But I thought the Josh Sweat 3rd down on the goal line situation.
That was a tough one.
That's like going to bother me all week because, look, if the 49ers get a field goal there, it probably doesn't change the outcome ultimately, but you gave them another opportunity to score a touchdown on the 2-yard line. And I just thought that was such a bad I don't know. It really left a bad taste in my mouth.
I would just like to see a replay. They didn't really give us a good replay on that one
Fox
to see
did
if he
that
actually was
times.
lining up offsides.
Yeah, that Christian McCaffrey toe tap on the sideline, didn't get the replay of that.
Right.
There was a lot of non-replay. But yeah, the 3rd down thing. And that's where it comes from. Like they stopped him on 3rd down at the goal line and then had one taken back from him. And it was almost like the plug was pulled and it was just like the floodgates open after that.
So let's talk about just big picture where things stand now in the NFC, Jamie. And we're going to hear from Zach Berman from Lincoln Financial Field in a little bit. I believe he has another pool report to do today.
Oh, does he?
The fisticuffs with Dre Greenlaw.
I'm sure they're going to want to ask about that.
I think that's one where I think we can all agree it's probably something that needs to be heard from on the refs' vantage point. But the Eagles now 10-2, which means they are 1 game up on the San Francisco 49ers, the Detroit Lions, and the Dallas Cowboys. And obviously we know that the Eagles are going to Dallas next Sunday night. Another Dallas,
Ooh.
a team that will also have a little bit of extra rest going up against the Eagles. It's weird that they get to Thursday back-to-back. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so the Niners now are going to have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Eagles. So any two-way tie, the Eagles need to finish a game ahead of San Francisco. Obviously, they've got Dallas next week. If they lose that game, as Daniz explained to us on Friday, Dallas will be listed as ahead of the Eagles in the NFC East at that point. But because the Eagles have 2 games left in the NFC, they will control their destiny for winning the division, but not for the 1 seed. And we know how important it is. You get home field advantage for the entirety of the non-Super Bowl playoffs, and you're the only team that gets a week off. And you saw what the benefit of rest meant today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the reason I picked the Niners to win on Friday was I just thought this was a really tough spot because San Fran, not only did they have the 10 days rest, but they had 2 cakewalk of games before that where they steamrolled teams. So it wasn't like those grind out, grueling, come from behind wins that the Eagles, had experienced in previous weeks. Bo, I got to ask you, if you're Shaq Leonard's agent right now, I mean, Howie's got to be on speed dial and say,
I think
the agent's probably
saying,
the price just went up. If you make me,
it shouldn't be a price thing because he's just making what the Colts are paying him.
You know what I mean? But you guys need me.
It's more like the spot is there for you. You want to step in and you can play. It's here.
If you had to guess right now, I mean, I know Nick Sirianni said he's talked to him a bunch this week and he's not gonna. But that's a real need. I mean, Nicholas Morrow was atrocious today.
He was really bad. He bounces off of McCaffrey on that long play. He's lets McCaffrey run by him on that big wheel route. Not good. Now Zach Cunningham not placed on injured reserve, which means the Eagles expect him to miss fewer than 4 games. There's a chance that he'll play next week. Nakobe Dean is out for the season. He confirmed that on his Instagram last week that he had surgery. So otherwise, you're looking at, can Ben Van Sumeren do something? Do you play Christian Ellis more? I think you need Zach Cunningham back as much as possible. Now, we saw the Eagles do a bunch of different stuff early in this game, personnel-wise. We saw that big penny where it's 5-1-5. We saw a lot of 5-man fronts, especially early in this game. And it looked like it was working early, but, the longer this game went on, the longer Kyle Shanahan was able to put those linebackers' ass in the jackpot.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where he picks because if you're him, obviously there's an opportunity to play here and take a job. If you're Shaq Leonard and you're unbiased, are you viewing the Cowboys or the Eagles as the better opportunity? Because you probably have a chance to play at both. But which one? It's going to be interesting to me to see which one he deems as the closer Super Bowl team.
It'd be fun if he picks the
Vikings,
the Cardinals. Just want to be in a warm weather.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does because this is as glaring a need, the linebacker position, as maybe I've ever seen for a playoff caliber Eagles team.
Well, and it's an interesting difference in organizational values, right? In this game where the Niners, they've got Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, and they pay those guys money, and it's a big part of the way that they're built on defense. I don't think it needs to be either or, but, and I don't really disagree with the way that the Eagles go about filling the linebacker position. I think it is the right position to borrow from, and they've gotten a little bit unlucky with Nakobe Dean being injured and, Zach Cunningham being injured too, but this is the matchup in which that glaring weakness is really, really exposed.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, that's as they're going to test your linebacker core as much as any combination in the NFL. And it didn't even feel like the Niners ran the ball at all today. It felt like, and this is part of why the numbers are so skewed. I know they did, but it really felt like they just dropped back and picked apart this Eagles team all day.
Yeah, there was a middle portion of the game where they were getting, 8-9 yards a pop. But for the most part, I think you're early on, they were stopping the run.
Yeah, Brock Purdy, look, he did a really nice job versus the team. And I think Eagles fans as a whole underrate him some. Yeah. I think he's a little better than people realize. Part of it's the Shanahan
his
offense.
efficiency numbers are unbelievable. You know, like on a per drop back basis, he's playing like perhaps the best quarterback in the league. There's not the volume there, and it's hard to divorce him from Shanahan. I would also say that like the drumbeat of he should be an MVP contender. I was not watching that game at any point thinking Brock Purdy is the difference in this game.
No. I was thinking Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey are.
Right.
And you know, I see there's some 49ers fans in the chat, and welcome. And while you're here, just hit the like button. Do us that favor.
Subscribe. Do us all that good stuff.
I saw somebody say CMC for MVP. I mean, there's a legit case to be made.
Well, he's certainly more valuable. The only the argument for Purdy is that he is a proxy for Kyle Shanahan, but Kyle Shanahan is not a player.
So currently, I have the DraftKings odds up in front of me. Jalen Hurts did drop a little bit in the MVP odds. He's at plus 250 now. Still the leader. Patrick Mahomes at plus 400, who plays tonight. Then you have Lamar, Dak, Brock Purdy. Christian McCaffrey is 2 behind Purdy. Like I would think.
Where's Tyreek Hill in there?
Not high enough. He's behind Christian McCaffrey at plus 2,000, tied with CJ Stroud.
Okay.
So I think Christian McCaffrey, you know, you can make a pretty good case that he is, you know, an MVP candidate. More so than Brock Purdy, in my opinion.
I would think so. Do you feel generally different about the Eagles now after this game? I mean, it's hard not to, right?
Not massively different because I did kind of mentally think this was going to be a loss today. So the way they got whooped probably changes it some. You know, my text messages with friends and colleagues got fired up again, and Brian Johnson is yet again in the crosshairs of my text conversations. But I think defensively,
I mean, it's hard to lose by, you know,
45
42 points and blame it on just the offensive coordinator.
Yes, but the defense I think is concerning. I really hope Shaq Leonard ends up here because they need some outside help at linebacker in a big way. The secondary, I'm probably a little shook after that performance. I think, you know, between Reed Blankenship and Nicholas Morrow, I thought they had pretty bad days.
I think in the playoffs against the best teams, the best offenses, they either need the defensive line to be much better, to be absolutely dominant, wrecking games, or they need to have some like crazy cooked up scheme that helps win. Because right now, the middle of the field, like it's not going to get that much better, even if it is Zach Cunningham and Shaq Leonard, like that's still going to be probably sub-mediocre. And the secondary right now it's just okay. You know, there's a lot of patchwork stuff going on with Kevin Byard and Bradley Roby and Eli Ricks, but also Darius Slay and James Bradbury are not playing at the same level they were last year. I think Slay in particular, I think they both have taken steps back this season. And Reed Blankenship is probably the best of those 5 guys right now, and he's a limited player.
Yeah, and he played 115 snaps last week when you take into account, you know, special teams. So, you know, it's kind of natural. Maybe it's, you know, I was watching the Lions game earlier today, and they were coming off a loss, and Jared Goff had told the sideline reporter, like, yeah, this isn't an excuse, but we were just tired last week. Like, we were on short rest off of a hard physical game. And I heard that this morning, and I went, oh, shit, that sounds a lot like the Eagles today. And I did think, you know, San Fran kind of mitigated some of that by giving them so much bulletin board material, but it appears not. So, you know, drastically, I don't feel horrible about them. It's like the same concerns I had maybe grew.
Right.
But I still think they're a top, you know, 3 to 5 team in the NFL.
And I see Matthew making this point in the chat. Do you feel like there's a part of you that thinks that in a way this loss is good for them?
Yeah, kind of. I do.
I think I don't know if it's good for them because the truth is that it's not good for them because it means that getting the 1 seed is less likely. But in a reality check sense,
sure.
Like the Brandon Graham from last week, like you must not know Jalen like I know Jalen. Like they can't just fall back on, well, we've got Jalen Hurts and this aura that he has. We're going to win these games. Like everybody needs to pull their own weight, and they need to be better than they have. And we keep waiting for them to play this perfect game. It's been 12 games now. They haven't played a perfect game. Like, I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think we're going to get it.
Yeah.
I think this is just going to be one of those teams that's going to have to overcome, you know, some of the shortcomings and their mistakes. And, you know, that's fine. I do think Jalen Hurts is the right guy to lead that type of team. Like, if you need those come from behind, just gritty type of things, he appears to be the right guy. But yeah, I mean, they're not a perfect football team. No team is. San Francisco's really good, but again, on another day, I think the Eagles can absolutely beat them. So I think losing to them now and letting them have their, Conor McGregor walk out of the stadium and chirp chirp and Debo with his 3 touchdowns, I think that's probably a positive for the Eagles if they see him again in the playoffs.
What'd you make of their whole general persona in this game?
It seemed like they kind of wanted to, like they were ready for the fight. Like they showed up ready to fight. Maybe physically, maybe figuratively, but like they didn't back down from the moment. They talked and they backed it up.
Yeah. There's a little the hit on DeAndre Swift at the end of that game.
That was unnecessary.
It's a little bit there's a lot of superfluous tough guy stuff that I think is
the flex
kind of weak,
which
kind
led
of
to
stuff.
Big Dom or the
and then
suplex.
Colton McKivitz running over Reed Blankenship after a play and standing over him when it's a little bit phony to me. It's a little bit fake, but at the same time, they came in here and kicked their ass.
Yeah, they did.
It's fair.
And it's great what a hated rival they've become, because rivalries in sports are awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys are a bigger rival,
sure,
but I feel like the Niners are a more hated team for Eagles fans.
Absolutely,
right now.
Yeah, they're very hateable. They're very good at it, and they only added to it today by whooping our ass and some of the extracurricular stuff.
Yeah, let's get to the Dom thing in a second, but first let's talk about our next sponsor, Athletic Greens AG1. Our partner AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. It is, this is like holiday season. You're thinking, man, I'm gonna have another eggnog. I've been doing a big Thanksgiving. How can I make up for that? Well, maybe getting the daily supplements that you need, because when you drink AG1 in the morning or afternoon, it makes you feel like you're ready to take on the day. You can do anything. And you've heard Jason Kelce talk about it. You've heard all these people talk about it. AG1 giving you what you need, what your body needs to get through the day and to feel good about yourself. So that's it. That's all you need to know. AG1 leading off for us on the PHLY Eagles postgame show.
And while we're here taking care of some business, let me tell you about Game Time, Bo, because I've used it a couple times recently. I went to a concert and I went to a comedian, and both times I used Game Time. And shout out to Zach Berman's, because it's literally 2 taps and it's sent right to your phone. It's the fastest growing ticket website and app out there. It's awesome because buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. They have killer deals on last minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing out about tickets and start getting hype for all the fun you're going to have. Flash deals, last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed, images of your seat view, all that excellent stuff. So forget planning months in advance. They have tickets for you right up to the time of your event. So buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, just create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
All right, I got to come clean here. The AG1 read, that's my first time doing it. Okay. And I missed the read at the end. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to tell you
reset.
Because there's a deal for you that I didn't even tell you about. If a comprehensive solution is what you need for your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/Eagles. That's drinkag1.com/Eagles. Check it out. Now we're in good shape. I mean, I feel like I felt like an Eagles linebacker out there.
Yeah. I got a question. A lot of 49ers fans in the chat, and that's fine. You guys are welcome. Enjoy the spoils of victory here.
Troll away.
But much like I think when we beat Kansas City in Arrowhead, it didn't take away the pain of last year's Super Bowl.
Yeah, there's no like this means that they would have won that game.
Yes,
like that.
And it does seem like the 49ers now, like the fans here chirping at us, are taking this as justification of, no, we would have beat you in the NFC Championship game had Purdy Like if this is going to snowball into.
Well, yeah, but that is the loser's mentality.
Yes.
Right? Like,
but that's what they seem to be having.
You said the same thing. The Eagles said the same thing. The opposite thing, right?
Mhm.
Like this doesn't make up for that. And
No.
To make it as if it does is just.
I think the
You're fooling
49ers
yourselves.
feel as though it does. That was my impression of Debo, doing the way.
Oh, sure, yeah.
They feel
Showing
as
up
though.
in his gimp outfit.
Yeah. We're not here to kink shame, but that was a weird outfit.
Yeah.
But it does feel like they believe this kind of makes up for last year.
What'd you make of the Dre Greenlaw, Dom DiSandro situation?
That was a dirty play by Greenlaw.
That guy's a little bit unhinged out there. You could see the way he's like punching at the ball.
Yeah. So he kind of tries to punch Devontae, and then he suplexes him out of bounds, penalty. I don't know what the rules are about Dom entering the white because
and I think he puts his hand on Dre Greenlaw too.
Yes,
which he's probably not allowed to do.
And he's the head of security, so his natural instinct is to break it up and separate and all that. It'll be interesting to see the league rule on that because he might have stepped out of his I don't know. So either way, Greenlaw
was thrown out of the game.
Yeah. Yes, he was thrown out of the game. So I think he probably broke some rules himself, if I had to guess.
Probably.
So they both got kicked out. That was great. It was pretty good entertainment.
That's the last person I would pick a fight with.
Yeah, he got him on the nose right there with the mini jab / finger.
He's sort of like a punch that you think at the last second this shouldn't be a punch. And also, it's a little bit too far away, and so it's like a flick. But yeah, that was.
I mean, I think the Greenlaw ejection was justified.
Yeah, absolutely. They both probably deserve to be thrown out of the game.
And Big Dom is now trending on Twitter, and
well, it's good for the Eagles Autism Foundation because they just started to sell those Big Dom shirts. I'm sure they're going to sell out of those now.
I would imagine they are sold out tomorrow. But that was weird. I've worked a lot of NFL games on the sidelines down there in the trenches, not actually on the field because I would die, but like in the trenches of the sideline where that took place. I've never seen anything like that. I did work the game where Mike Tomlin tripped the player, and there was a little bit of that was an interesting one. But I've never seen anything like that. That was new.
That was new.
In baseball, they say you watch and you see something you've never seen before.
Yeah.
Today, that was true in football because that was a weird one.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the offense now, Jamie. 2 drives at the start of the game, they move the ball right down the field. They're looking really good, but they stall in the red zone. One of them, that second possession, Jalen Hurts takes that bizarre sack when he's just sitting back there pointing, and then he slips.
That was brutal.
And we'll get to another bad Jalen Hurts play, but those first 2 drives, you sort of knew, like, oof. They're moving the ball, and they're only coming out with points here. They're only going to be up 6-0. That's not great, and certainly it came back to bite them. And then over the course of the rest of the game, they go 3 and out, 6 and out, and then they get that possession at the end of the first half, down 14-6 with about 35 seconds left, and nothing. Like they called the timeouts, and they do nothing with it. They play one play. Hurts throws it away, and then they just throw a little pass over the middle, and that's it. Like this, Serriani does this a lot, where he's not as aggressive as he should be at the end of the half. I thought that was not great. Then their first possession of the third quarter, they get the touchdown. That's when the Dom thing happens. Then they go 3 and out again, and then the game is sort of out of hand, and they score a late touchdown. But I didn't think that the offense was necessarily the problem in this game, but paired with what was happening on defense, they certainly were not explosive enough.
Yeah, there was a couple times where like the defense just needed a breather, and the offense couldn't get it going. And it was like, I think you even said out loud one time, "Man, you're going to send the defense right back out there after the drive they just let up."
Yes,
and it was just like one of those games where symmetrically they didn't help each other out, and the defense.
That was after the first Niners touchdown.
Yeah,
with 7-6. That's when they go 3 and out, and that was bad because you could tell that things were starting. Like the defense needed a break to sort of figure things out.
Sure.
And yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, I said I did a halftime reaction video that was up on our YouTube channel. And make sure you're subscribing to PHLY, even you 49ers fans that are in here peacocking around. I put it up and I said, man, I kind of got like that sinking pit in my stomach after those first 2 drives where you controlled it for 12 minutes. You basically didn't let the 49ers touch the ball in the first quarter, and you came away with 2 field goals. Like, that was the game. And one was that Jalen mistake. I mean, it was like a 12-yard slip.
And then
That was
later,
brutal.
he takes a sack when they have like a full max protection in, only 2 guys going out on a route. He's sitting back there, and you absolutely cannot take a sack there. Like, that was so bad. And then he almost throws that tipped interception at the end of the first half. That was the play. I had forgotten about that one. You know what else was a shame? It really seemed like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith were up for this game in a big way.
Yeah.
A.J. comes out firing, running through people. He finishes with 8 for 114. Devontae Smith has that play on when finally a wide receiver screen on 3rd and long works, when he just runs through the Niners defense.
Yeah.
He finishes with 9 for 96 and a touchdown. And it felt like they wasted those performances. Like, those guys were in on it.
Yeah, when you and Zach check out the All-22 this week and talk to Baldy, I'm very interested to see, these weren't like to Jalen struggling there. They were like coverage sacks, even though they didn't really like necessarily result in sacks all the time. He had nothing to throw to, or he was missing it. So, credit to the Niners defense there. Yes, those guys were up for it when they got the ball, but a lot of these times, Jalen had all the time in the world to find somebody, and either nobody was open or he was missing them. So that was just kind of you shoot yourself in the foot a little bit holding on to the ball that much, because the offensive line was not to blame. It seemed like they had a really pretty good day overall.
Lane had a very good day. It seemed like against Nick Bosa. One major factor in this game, we talked about thinking the Eagles were going to have a chance to run on the San Francisco 49ers. No running game to be had at all. Jalen Hurts, 7 carries for 20 yards. DeAndre Swift, 6 carries for 13 yards. That's it. Kenny Gainwell, 2 for 5. Boston Scott, 1 for 2. So
I know you're down. You end up being down into the second quarter and half and all that. But what are we talking about here? 12 rushes outside of Jalen Hurts?
Let me. I'll add it up. But I think that's right. Yeah.
It's not to say like if you go out there and
not even
roll the blunt, you're going to win the game. But that's too imbalanced for me. Like it 60-40 is the new 50-50 when it comes to like, balance, maybe even 65-35 in the modern NFL. But 12 rushes, and I know you're playing from behind, but you can't just abandon the run even when you're playing from behind. There has to be, a little better balance there.
Now, just by the advanced numbers in terms of EPA per drive, this was like the 5th or 6th best performance of 12 games for the Eagles this season, so sort of right in the middle. And so it's hard for me to come like too hard down on them. Now, by success rate, it was their second worst of the season. So that sort of tracks with like a bunch of 3-and-outs again.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think this game is about the defense and needing to find some solutions there. But in a game when the defense is getting run over, like it's also a lesson that this offense is maybe not at like the elite level that it needs to be to make up for that kind of defense.
Yeah, perhaps. And, part of it could be that they don't have a tight end in the passing game right now. I wonder how much that has affected them over these last, 3 or 4 games. And that should
for those of you who didn't know, Dallas Goedert practiced on Friday in a limited capacity, was doubtful, did not play in this game, but all indications are that there's a good chance he'll play next week. Yeah,
and I think, if you bring in Goddard and then bring in maybe a Zach Ertz reunion on top of it, I think that could do a lot. For the passing game. But it seems like that's just been completely, they don't even look at a tight end. So it's
like Albert Okwuegbunam got like a bunch of snaps in this game. It felt like
Dallas Goedert will be a very welcome addition back to this team next week.
Yeah. I mean, they need a third option in the passing game.
Yeah. There was a lot of Quez today.
I actually thought Quez didn't look that bad.
He played okay. Yeah. Except for the one that he was pass interfered with.
Could have been pass interference.
I mean, I think it was. Yeah. I don't want to bitch about the refs because then you look like the loser that's bitching about the refs. But like there was some bad calls today. I
thought there was a concerted effort for them to not throw flags for the most part. It felt like, which was why like the Sweat offsides was a little bit like, was he actually offsides or not? And there was the potential hold on Blankenship on the long McCaffrey score.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was certainly not the difference in this game.
It's just I would love to watch a game in the NFL where I'm not like, oh, that was a bad call, or oh, they got away with one. Like it's just me yelling at the clouds.
What did you make of Hurts's performance? He goes 26 of 45 for 298 and a touchdown. But some of that coming in garbage time. You hit your over, which is good.
Yeah, miraculously hit the over. Missed the A.J. Brown touchdown. 1-1, live to fight another day. Can I ask you why the hell he was in at the end of the game?
I totally agree with you.
He had just come out of concussion
protocol. Why weren't any
protocol.
of those guys in? Like,
what are
why
you doing?
is DeAndre Swift in the game getting hit and popped in the head like that?
Yeah, that should have been Boston Scott getting popped. I mean, I don't want Boston to get popped, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm amazed.
I mean, they are coming off of this crazy gauntlet. They have another huge game coming up. They played a ton of snaps. Like, get them off the field.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I don't know why Jalen Hurts was in on that final drive. That made no sense to me at all.
I mean, I think the only answer is that Jalen Hurts might fight you if you take him out of the game.
And you don't have Big Dom there to break it up.
Yeah, that's true.
So Nick was probably like, oh, shit, I better just let him play here.
Right. But
I don't have my muscle.
You got to have the big picture in mind there. That's like the kind of mistake that Kyle Shanahan makes running Christian McCaffrey out there in these blowouts. Like those guys should not have been on the field.
Yeah, I found that really weird. Overall, Hurts, it's hard to know without knowing why he held onto the ball so long. I think he looked okay. Like, I certainly don't look at Hurts today and go, well, he's the reason they lost. Like, it was an underwhelming day offensively, but I don't necessarily look to him as, like, bad day. Like, it was an okay day.
Yeah, I mean, the two big sacks he took were big plays in the game.
The slip was brutal.
Yeah, I mean, and that's bad luck, but that's also...
he was dropping back.
Huge play in the game.
5 to 7 yards at a time waiting for something to develop.
That was bad.
Sometimes they don't develop.
Yeah. And again, this is like, we'll have to see what the All-22 says. But, I don't know that it felt like he was seeing things clearly or if the coverage was just that good. But there were some times when it felt like maybe he wasn't prepared to, let the ball go a few times into tight coverage. So we'll have to see.
It did seem like he held on to it the longest of all year.
Yeah, I think my Hurts takeaway is similar to what I said before. Like, he's not the reason they lost this game, but if they're going to be able to overcome like that level of play on defense or just a little bit better, like he's going to need to be sort of superhuman. And he wasn't that.
Yeah, like the offensive line was blocking so well. Usually it's hard for a defensive back to retain coverage on somebody for 5+ seconds. So like I do find it hard to believe that they were covered the entirety of the time. I think it's probably got to be 50-50. He was missing some guys and maybe holding on. But again, I haven't seen it. But I would just guess it's really hard for a cornerback to hold coverage for 5-6 seconds. And some of those plays were 5 and 6 seconds. Right. Somebody had to be getting open somewhere.
Now, 4th and 3, 4th and 2 on the TV broadcast. End of the third quarter from the Eagles' 32-yard line with about 2:30 left in the third quarter. The Eagles are down 28-13. They're down 15 points. Now, this was the play when Hurts was eventually evaluated for a concussion, but that was not the case on the field. Serriani made this decision before that happened. Do you go for it there? The defense has given up a touchdown on 4 straight drives at this point.
Yeah, so I looked at kind of at you and Andrew not knowing that Hurts had taken the hit and was hurt, and I went, you kind of have to go for it here.
I think you have to go for it there.
That ended up being a coward's punt. I mean, you have to. Like, you had just allowed 4 straight touchdowns by your defense. One, I think it says, I guess he's trying to say he has confidence in the defense, but you shouldn't have. And 2, it kind of says you don't have. Now, do I want Marcus Mariota in there?
But I think this decision was made before because I think he wasn't pulled into the protocol until he was like viewed on the sideline.
Yeah, E.J. Smith from the Inquirer said that he thinks the league spotter, the concussion spotter, went down and called that one in.
Right.
So you got to go for it there. Like, that was kind of the game.
You can't not go for it there, but then also leave your starters in at the end of the game when you're down 23 points.
Yeah.
Like, are you going for it or not?
Yeah. I thought that was a coward's punt. You had to go for it. You had nothing to lose at that point. I mean, it was what?
I thought that was bad. I thought that was a really bad punt.
Yeah. That was, what was it, 5.5 or so remaining?
About 2:30 left in the third quarter.
Oh, it was 2:30. Okay, yeah definitely.
Down 15 points. Yeah.
Come on, what are you doing?
I thought that was bad. What can you tell me about Wheelhouse Cards?
Wheelhouse Cards, that's Zach Berman's son's favorite store.
That's exactly right.
And I think it would be your favorite store, too. And you can check out
if Zach was my dad.
Well,
probably.
I don't know. You guys do some weird stuff. Yeah. Maybe Zach can take Bo to Wheelhouse Cards this week.
That could be a segment. Zach treat me like you're my dad. I think that'd be fun.
Well, Wheelhouse Cards has 2 convenient locations for you in Wayne and Westchester, and it's our go-to sports card, gift, and apparel shop in the Delaware Valley because their motto is cards and community, because the love of sports unites us all, even you 49ers fans here in the chat. It's sports brings us together. Look at that. They carry all of your favorite brands like Topps Chrome Baseball and Mosaic Football, as well as T-shirts, hats, and hoodies from brands like Mitchell & Ness, 47 brand, Junk Food Starter, and one of my favorites, Shibe Vintage Sports. And if you're looking to get your sports card graded, well, Wheelhouse offers PSA grading submissions. They also host a ton of different family-friendly events and birthday parties every month. So stop into either of their stores in Wayne or Westchester, open 7 days per week at 11 a.m. Use code PHLY to get $10 off any purchase of $25 or more in store. Be sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Wheelhouse Cards.
Nick Sirianni apparently asked about that punt in his postgame press conference.
Please tell me he says I'm a coward.
He says he does not regret that decision. Quote, there was a lot of football left to be played. That's courtesy of Elliott Shore Parks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's ever really going to... Is he a type of guy that would say, like, yeah, I thought about that one. I probably should have gone for it?
He would do that.
He would?
Yeah, he does. There were a couple early in the season when he admitted.
Okay.
It was like, I think whether to go for 2 or not.
I mean...
Which also, another one, he should have gone for 2 when it was 28-13.
And Greg Olsen ended up talking about that, which the old school, thought was wait to go for the 2-point conversion. But the new school thought is go for it early, and then that way you know how to base your other possessions behind it. They should have gone for 2.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah, I didn't think it was, Sirianni's best, like, just kind of.
And to our discussion, he said about leaving the starters at the end. We're going to fight until the end.
No.
Like, what is that?
Not if one of your guys is coming out.
I mean, listen, I know that he is like the
rah-rah guy.
He's Mr. Rah-rah, but like your job as the coach of the team is to keep the big picture in mind. Like,
yeah, the announcers at one point were talking about, Nick Sirianni's message to the team this week was, don't lose control of your emotions and stay focused and in the game. And then I'm thinking of him pregame yelling at the officiating crew and the Niners, and I'm like, are you, practicing what you're preaching here? Because he looked like he was pretty emotional throughout the day.
Early in the game, he's unhinged before the game, right?
Yeah,
It's hard to make it through 18 games when you're just such a roller coaster every week.
Yeah. Definitely one of his, I don't know, worst situational football games I think we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because like the game was so out of hand.
Yeah.
That, there weren't a ton of decisions that ended up factoring.
Sure.
But yeah, I didn't think he handled things very well.
Yeah. And I feel like such a boomer yelling at the clouds here, but 12 rushes.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
Just didn't have the ball that much. I mean, at the same time, AJ Brown and DeVonta Smith were doing well.
Yeah, they were.
But yeah.
I just feel like there's always got to be a balance, and I don't know. Sirianni.
Back in your day, walking uphill both ways.
Both ways in the snow, both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just sucks.
Things were much more like, how Nick Bosa wants it. Back in those days.
Yeah, it's just there was really nothing went right.
Yeah, it was. They had a good first quarter, and that was about it.
The Big Dom might have been the highlight of the day.
I'd say so.
That's not good.
It's funny. Those first 2 defensive possessions, they looked
great.
They looked completely.
Hassan Reddick looked like a man possessed.
Yeah, they looked like caged animals.
And then
uncaged animals.
The pass rush just disappeared for the rest of the game. I don't know what happened there.
How do you feel about next week's game against the Cowboys now?
Sunday night game?
Sunday nighter.
That's gonna be a tough one. I'm really curious to see where Shaq Leonard's playing, because if he's here with the Eagles, he's gonna be starting.
Yeah, I mean, let's also keep the expectations for Shaq Leonard.
Oh, he's not all pro Shaq Leonard, but is he better than Nicholas Morrow
cut
today?
By the Colts,
lost his job.
But yeah, I mean, he's probably not bouncing off of Christian McCaffrey. But
no, we have a pretty low bar right now.
It's a very low bar.
So, is that going to sway how I feel about the game? I don't know. Dak does play well versus the Eagles. He seems to have
He's
his
a very good player.
stinkers. He is a good player. I don't feel as confident as I once did. Because remember when we talked about
I mean,
this,
it's a very realistic possibility that this team is all of a sudden going to be the 5 seed.
that's crazy. When we talked about this gauntlet, I think right before we both kind of said like 3-3 would be
Right.
good. Now you're at the end of it, and it's like, oh, damn.
4-2 might not be good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And, hopefully the Niners have a slip up and the Cowboys will probably have a slip up. It's not yet, it just turned December. So the Cowboys have plenty of time here to screw up still. But I certainly don't feel as good as I mean, everything just went wrong today. Everything. So it's hard for me to think that this defense is going to go down to Dallas and, hold them to under 30 points right now.
Yeah.
They were pretty abysmal today.
And listen, the Cowboys, this is now, if you go back to the Cowboys game before the bye, and then the Chiefs game, and then the Bills game, and then this game, the defensive line has not been as impactful as it was in the first half of the season. And that Cowboys game, they were sort of manhandled up front by a very good Cowboys offensive line. That, to me, I am more worried about the defensive line not being amazing than I am about the linebackers who we knew were not going to be very good being not very good.
Yeah,
I think that's how the defense is built. That's how they need it to be.
Yeah, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Fletch, our coworker, had a sack today.
Fletch played well.
Yeah, he did, especially coming off a groin like that. But it seemed like everybody was just kind of quiet today. And
yeah, Jalen Carter, not much of a. I mean, he made a few nice plays. But,
but when you're not running the ball, like how much are you really going to notice D tackles unless you're completely disrupting the pocket on every single possession, which they're capable of. But yeah, the defensive line you're going to need more from if the coverage is going to suck. Like you can't have both ineffective. You need one of the two to have a chance.
Right.
And today you had really kind of neither, and you didn't have a chance.
So we are biding our time until we hear from Zach Berman, who is doing some pool reporter duties. I'm sure he's gone to the locker room by now. As he says, the Eagles are now 10-2. They visit Dallas next week. The Eagles still control their path to the number 1 seed, although the margin for error became tighter.
So I have the line.
Ooh.
So I've seen it, so I'll let you guess.
Cowboys by 4.
A little less. It's pretty much a coin flip, the -3.
Okay.
Opening line on DraftKings, Cowboys -3. I mean, I do think this is about as even a matchup as you could ask for. Like, these are 4 games in a row that are the game of the week every week.
Yeah.
And that takes a toll on you,
It's a crazy gauntlet.
Yeah, it really is. So, you're going down there, and even the odds makers are telling you, like, yep, this one's about as even as can be. Dallas gets the 3 points for being at home, and have at it, boys.
Then they got to fly back, and then they got to fly all the way across the country to Seattle the next week for what is now a Monday night game.
Yeah, so if Bo Wulf was Jeffrey Lurie and had ultimate say,
here's $100,000.
Would you? I know they wouldn't because they love being in practice at home, but would you consider just going out to Seattle for the week?
I think they talked about that. I think they considered it. Now that they have an extra day, they're definitely not doing it.
Yeah.
I think it's not close enough. Like
Dallas
you'd still have
Seattle.
to fly from Dallas to Seattle. After the game, right? And
that's still probably
really
a 4-hour flight.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. But if it was Denver into Seattle, would you just take the
Something
team?
like that. Maybe, yeah. I mean, they did it in the past when they had Seattle, LA.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is not to be like a Niners fan, but like the schedule did not do them any favors in terms of the way that it was laid out.
No. I mean, 3 teams in a row you're playing, and Dallas in the crooked NFL with the Thanksgiving, extra rest every year built in.
Yeah,
it's pretty nice.
It is nice for them.
Yeah.
And then they get there Thursday, the next Thursday. Like that they don't get a short week. They have no short week game.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. FOCO is the next sponsor that I want to tell you about because FOCO is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. It's the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. It is football and tailgating season, plus it's the holiday season. You need to get those gifts. They've got overalls. They've got hoodies. They've got hats. They've got sunglasses. They've got bags. They've got everything you need for a game. FOCO has hooked PHLY up and provided awesome pieces for our sets. Foco always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description. For all non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY10 for 10% off. All right. What do you want to ask Zach about?
Well, let's see. I wrote down, usually throughout the game, I write some Zach potential questions.
Okay.
So here's what I have jotted down. We'll run through them, which
I hope
we'll let you
I
decide.
hope they have nothing to do with the game. And they're just personal questions.
Third down defense seems bad. It was my first note from early in the game.
Good note.
Pass rush seemed to disappear after the first quarter. They're more like notes to myself to formulate a question based on.
Miss Lippy's car is green.
Yeah. No milk will ever be our milk. The booing at halftime seemed justified.
Yeah.
I wanted to get Zach's opinion on that.
Okay.
The defense allowed 4 straight touchdowns. I stopped updating that note.
Okay. Turned into 6.
Yeah. Decision to punt. 17 pressures on Hurts, but that seems deceiving to me.
Yeah, I think some of those were like he was holding on to the ball. Yeah.
Yes. And then the last one I had was Hurts coming back in after the concussion protocol seems strange to me when the game was out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, when he came back in, I guess there was still enough time.
There was still a little bit of hope there.
That's Jalen. He's always going to want to be in the game. He can't as long as there are seconds left on the scoreboard, he's going to be out there. But it's your job to protect him, and he should not.
He should not have been out there.
The last possession, certainly not.
No, I mean it did get me my Jalen Hurts passing over, so I appreciate that, Coach Sirianni. But yeah, absolutely should not have been out on the field.
I mean, these Niners numbers on offense are just wild. 8 yards per play on offense, just crazy. 456 yards of total offense. This is the 5th straight game, I think, that the Eagles have been outgained by over 100 yards.
Wow.
And as you said, it's not like they're playing up against a bad offense next week in the Cowboys.
No, Dak seems to play his best games, against the Eagles, and they kind of got a little lucky here last time versus the Cowboys. But the worst byproduct of today's game is just going to be everybody that's called the Eagles frauds and fraudulent, the worst 10-1 team. I already see the 49ers fans here in the chat saying
they're the worst 10-2 team in the league.
They're the worst. They're terrible. I think they're not going to win a game for the rest of the year, and they probably shouldn't even make the playoffs. But that's like the worst byproduct of this is like everybody that was saying the Eagles were lucky, blah, 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 you're just going to have to hear it more and more again as if they don't have 10 wins in the NFL. Like, it's just unfortunate that we have to hear it. I want to turn into like Charlie
I don't know
Brown's
that we
teacher.
need these like homophobic a-holes in the chat.
No.
That's not a thing that needs to be seen.
No, you guys should probably get out of here if that's what you're bringing to the table. It's football. It's not really that serious, guys. But yeah, now everybody that, doubted the Eagles and said they were lucky and they've gotten it, now they're just going to go, see, they were lucky. They aren't that good.
Yeah, I mean, they did get pantsed at home.
Oh, yeah. Pantsed and spanked.
But this is the thing that we talked about a couple weeks ago, right? Like, even if they were not, like, by merit, the best team in football, if they were the 5th best team in football, but still got the 1 seed, you got a really good chance to win it all because you got a good chance to make it to the Super Bowl. And then, it's a coin flip from there. But if they are, like, is this team good enough to be the 5 seed and go win the Super Bowl? I don't think so. Like, are they good? And even if they're the 2 seed, all of a sudden, like if they go to San Francisco in the NFC Championship game, are you feeling good? I don't know.
Well, that stadium
who's playing linebacker?
It's not even really in San Francisco. It's all the way out in Santa Clara.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I probably wouldn't feel. I mean, San Francisco's really good. They're a really good team. I wish it was a closer game because in the pregame show today, I almost said this to you that when I was originally going to go Niners win, and then I flip-flopped and cowered it out on myself.
Sure.
I was going to say, well, this is going to be close no matter what because the Eagles just don't get blown out. I was about to say, well, Jalen Hurts is incapable of being blown out. Like, he always hangs in games. Good thing I didn't say that because they got blown out.
We sort of had this conversation on Friday. My take was that the least likely outcome of the game was a close Niners win.
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
But I thought blowout was very much on the table for both sides because I think if the Niners were in like straight pass situations, that's not what they're meant for. They're not good at playing from behind. but they're great at front running. And
Yeah,
they
they're very
certainly
good
do
at that. And they have a good offensive line, and that Christian McCaffrey is pretty annoying. Nice little flop on our coworker, too, today.
Yeah.
Come on.
Again, like there's just some like jabroni tendencies that they have that are very unbecoming, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's part of the secret sauce to making them good.
Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan's a jabroni too, so
yeah,
it does take on his personality.
It kind of fits the jabroni persona of the team. He is very just unlikable.
Yeah,
and he might be a fine guy, but
now if you would think that Nick Sirianni was unlikable too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very much so. And if I'm the San Francisco 49er fan, I'm going, yeah, that guy's an idiot.
Right, that guy got what he was asking for.
Yeah.
No doubt. Okay. Well, we're waiting to hear from Zach. I think he just left Jalen Hurts' press conference, so he's on his way to talk to us, and we will look forward to seeing that. So if there's any questions in the chat, let us know. I would say some of the other things that stood out from this game, I did think the offensive line for the Eagles was pretty good in pass protection, at least.
That was the majority of what they did.
Yeah, that's right. As you said, Quez Watkins 3 for 28. What a huge play for Boston Scott, that 27-yard catch at the end of the game where Jalen Hurts throws across his body. Huge play.
Yeah, that got me over the Jalen Hurts passing yard. So I respect all of that. Yes, Eagles are overrated.
That was a big one.
If you're doing the post-game show in San Fran right now, and you're Bo Wulf out at the Golden Gate Bridge, and Good Morning San Francisco is coming on tomorrow morning, what are you saying about the team right now? Undoubtedly the best team in the NFL?
I think it's fair to say that they are playing the best football of any team in the NFL right now.
Okay.
And when they're right now, they are healthy. It's a good time for them to be healthy, and it's hard to come back on them. They have this like game specific style, which is very impressive. I'd like to see them come from behind at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, this is a very difficult team to prepare for.
Yeah. They're nasty. Like, they're a damn good team, and if there is a rematch here, depending on where it is, the line makers were right last week. We saw the line and we were just like, whoa. Sure enough,
yeah,
they had a right read on that.
That was a red flag. That
was the first red flag, and I think it's why I felt, and that's probably why I don't feel so bad right now. Is like I kind of expected them to lose this. Now next week becomes vital. I mean, you really kind of have to go down to Dallas and win now.
Yes. Now let's get into their future schedules because it's a little bit interesting. San Francisco next week has Seattle at home. Yeah. They are, believe it or not, 12.5-point favorites.
Wow.
In that game. Then they go to Arizona. The early line there is 15. Then there's a huge game in Week 16. They play the Baltimore Ravens at home. So that is two of the 5 best teams in the NFL. Probably,
and you got to hope the Ravens have some seeding on the line there.
Yes, and that seems like the most likely place for a loss to come for the Niners. And then they close with at Washington and then home in Week 18 against the Rams, who might be playing for a playoff spot on their own. The Eagles, but let's go through it. They've got San Francisco. They've got at Dallas next week, then at Seattle, and then they close with the cake ending, Giants, Cardinals, at Giants.
Yeah, those last 3 I don't think you're worried about in the slightest. Shout out Tommy DeVito.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Dallas has the Eagles, and then at Buffalo, and then at Miami, and then Detroit, and then at Washington. So
that's a tough schedule there for the Cowboys.
I think you feel pretty good about the Cowboys not running the gauntlet. Right?
Yeah, but the Niners seem like outside that Ravens game.
And then just for the record, since they're also in that pack, Detroit has at Chicago, Denver, at Minnesota, at Dallas, Minnesota. So I don't think you're expecting them to run the table either. It probably comes down to the Eagles and Niners, and I think you're a big Ravens fan in Week 16.
Yeah, and that's even still, if they get the win next week, you're still going to be a big Ravens fan because San Fran they're just steamrolling teams right now.
And they've got the head-to-head tiebreaker. So any tie is going to go.
Yeah, you really have to kind of insulate yourself next week, and it's not going to be an easy. It's not going to be an easy win next week. We'll see. Maybe Shaq Leonard and Zach Ertz are wearing midnight green down in Dallas. We'll see.
Do you want Ertz back?
Yeah. I don't see why not.
Okay.
if the guys in the locker room want him back, then bring him on. I saw Lane Johnson.
I feel like
tweeting
it's up to Dallas Goedert. If he wants him back, he can come back. If not, don't worry about it.
But like, do you want your boy Albert out there? Do you want Jack Stoll?
I think he's certainly an upgrade, but only if Dallas Goedert gives it the okay.
And I think Dallas would, if I had to guess. I'm not like close friends with him, but
yeah,
I don't think Zach Ertz is going to come here and start taking targets away from him. I think they might.
I don't think so either. But
I think they have
who knows what the relationship dynamics are there.
Yeah, but it just gives you the possibility of running 12 personnel a little more.
Yeah,
because are you really running it now? Probably not.
Yeah.
So it gives you like another offensive kind of avenue.
Oh, I totally agree. And if it's somebody that Jalen Hurts will throw the ball to, that matters too.
Absolutely.
So, all right. We have the man himself, Zach Berman. Great backdrop as always, looking sharp. Zach, how are you? What can you tell us? Who did you talk to down in the locker room?
Doing well. I've had a busy post game here. Another pool report, second consecutive week there. So got some clarification on the DiSandro ejection. And then was working the locker room, spoke to Jordan Mailata and Jason Kelsey, James Bradbury, James Bradbury, Nick Sirianni. I wanted to be there for Nick Sirianni and then Jalen Hurts as well. So try to get a representative sampling, and then I'll continue to listen to more through. But try to get a representative sampling from both sides of the ball as much as I could, and certainly the mood of the team.
What was the mood? Did they act like a team that had just gotten punched in the face repeatedly?
Yeah, they acted like a team that is kind of eating the humble pie. Is that the expression? The cliche, the humble pie. But also a team that thinks they might see these guys again and wants to see these guys again. I think that's a way to frame it. I think they know they were outplayed. There's really no rationalization or justification. I think they know they were outcoached. I think they know there were specific situations in the game, in particular red zone in the first quarter, or early in the game when you come away with 6 points on 2 red zone trips. They know they need to do better there. The defense knows they need to get stops. And overall, I know that, or I imagine, I haven't listened to the show obviously, but there's conversation about the decision to punt the ball on the 4th and 2. It's 4th and 3 in the official box score, but it was announced in the press box as 4th and 2. That was the first question to Nick Sirianni. And Nick said he thought there was a lot of game left. He felt comfortable with that. I asked, was Jalen Hurts a factor in that decision? Because Jalen, unbeknownst to me at the time, but was injured on the play before. And he said, no, that did not factor into it. So that was kind of a hot button issue. But overall, really,
I don't want to cut you off, Zach. Yeah. I don't think that was like the difference in the game. It wasn't the number one takeaway. I do think it was a bad decision, and it sort of echoed the decision he made in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs to punt in his own territory when he's not really following the flow of the game, that his defense cannot get a stop against this offense right now, and you need to lean into your offense. But I also they were not going to win that game if he went for it on 4th down, I don't think.
Well, with the way the defense was playing, they weren't going to win that game. San Francisco had their way. But like you said, you need points there. You're not playing a field position game. At that point, San Francisco had scored on 4 consecutive drives. It's a 15-point game. 4th and 2, 4th and 3, even if it's at the 34-yard line or thereabouts, you need to be confident. Look, if I was Nick Sirianni on that sideline, I'd be more confident that my offense can get 3 yards than my defense is going to stop San Francisco and force them to punt it there. Yes. What I'm trying to do there is I'm trying to keep it a 1-possession game instead of what happened when they extended the lead. So I didn't like that decision. I went to Sirianni specifically to ask that question, and the question was asked right before me. I thought it was a big decision in the game, but it's not the reason they lost the game. The reason they lost the game, frankly, is they faced a better football team tonight. They faced a team that was more prepared, that executed better, that coached better, that was better situationally, and that just had answers for everything the Eagles were doing defensively. And it's one of these things that we talked all week about, the Eagles' challenges in the middle of the field. And if we saw it, I mean, you're darn sure Kyle Shanahan saw it. And Kyle Shanahan, look, there's the thumbs up again. Kyle Shanahan took advantage of that. So I thought that this game really exposed some personnel issues defensively that we've been discussing that really there's no easy answer for. Now, you don't play San Francisco every week, right? So you can get by certain weeks. But with the way San Francisco was able to attack them, no matter what the coverage was, with the way they were able to use the entire field, and speaking to James Bradbury, what San Francisco was doing with motions and with jet sweeps and things of that nature, the misdirection was really affecting this Eagles defense, and they were going after the middle of the field, and it's not often that like we can say we told you so, but this is one of these things where we expected this to happen, and then it happened.
So, Zach, it leads me to the question now. Shaq Leonard is going to be making his decision here probably tomorrow or Tuesday. I think it goes without saying that the need for him increased. I thought Nicholas Morrow was just exposed left and right all over the field today. Any kind of sense of the internal desire for him increasing after that performance?
Well, so it's a tricky situation in that there's nothing the Eagles can do here, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's not as if they can like outbid. I mean, Indianapolis is on the hook for that contract. It's also this isn't a money decision at that point, right? It simply comes down to does Shaq Leonard want to play in Dallas or just want to play in Philadelphia? When you watch the way the Eagles played tonight, there's certainly opportunity to play for the Eagles. Now, Zach Cunningham's going to be back at some point here, and again, you're not facing San Francisco every week, but this is going to be a Shaq Leonard decision. The Eagles can want him all they want, but this is going to be where Shaq Leonard wants to play the next 2-3 months of the season.
So, Zach, what was the mood of the locker room? Tell us what guys in the locker room said.
Yeah, so I asked Jason Kelce a similar question to like the tweet that you had, Bo, where the Eagles have been getting by with the idea that like they know how to win, right? And I basically framed it. I know it wasn't going to look like it looked last year, where you're winning all these games and by double digits in the third quarter. But did you think the way you were playing was a sustainable way to play? And his response to that was, well, first, they've been playing really good teams, right? Like when you play against Buffalo and Kansas City, you're not going to run away with games, and it's going to be these types of games. But he said they all know they haven't played their best football, and they need to play better, and that consistency is really what they need to go after. That was Kelce's big sentiment. Like they're going to respond from this. Now, this is the biggest loss they've had in this. I mean, certainly as I'm thinking here since that Vegas game in 2021. But a game Jason Kelce referenced was 2018 against New Orleans. They went down there. They got their rear ends kicked, right? I mean, I vividly remember that game. That was when Sean Payton, Malcolm Jenkins, like talking trash, right?
You know what I
late in the
remember
game.
about that game?
What's that?
I actually had this conversation earlier this week with Elliot Shore Parks. What I remember about that game is the Peter King story that came out afterwards about Sean Payton's analytics guy telling him the goal of the game was to make sure Carson Wentz threw between like 280 and 350 yards or whatever it was.
Yeah. I do remember that. But he said, like, because he was asked, do you remember a time when you lost like this and you guys responded? He's like, yeah. And he mentioned that game, and he said they kind of rallied. He said the Saints game last year was really ugly offensively, and then they rallied. Now that was a different circumstance. They were playing that game with the backup quarterback. So I think there was perspective in that locker room, right? There's for all the trash talking and the antics and whatnot. There's a lot of respect for San Francisco in there, right? They know how good a team that is. And I asked Jalen Hurts before you watch the film, like, is there a play or a sequence that's really gonna bother you in these next few hours? And he actually answered the question. He started by saying, like, it comes down to execution. But then he said, when you're down there in the red zone early in the game, you need to score there, and that's what stuck out to him. And then we all know the play when he slipped, right? I mean, I think that's a play that will probably stick out to him because you go from second and manageable to third and long, right? And he slips
play.
there. Yeah, and he just slipped. Like he just slipped. It wasn't an execution problem. It was, I don't know if it was a wet field or he slipped. But that's what kept coming up is like from the offensive side, the situational football. Jordan Mailata said that red zone as well. That's what sticks out. And then defensively, it's everything. Like you got to get off the field, right? You got to stop them. James Bradbury was giving like a real clinical breakdown of how San Francisco was attacking them, and getting to the perimeter, and really talked about the pre-snap movement and the strain that put on the defense, and how like they had answers for zone, they had answers for man. Basically, like San Francisco was really well prepared for this game, and simply had answers for them. And then there's a lot of like big picture stuff, that they can't break, they can't fracture. They're not going to fracture, right? You lose games in this league. You lose games to good teams. San Francisco was favored on the road, and next week's going to be extraordinarily difficult as well, right? We know that. But there was a sense of humility, I would say, in that locker room. Like there was not a sense of defiance. It was not like oh, we're the better team, and it wasn't like San Francisco last year when they lost here. It was a team that acknowledged they got slaughtered today, and they need to respond. And this is, you kind of talk about your team's character, your team's makeup. That comes through in situations when you are responding. Not when everyone's praising you. It's how do you respond now?
So, Zach, I'm curious what came of the pool reporter meeting there and the explanation in maybe one of the only positive things for the Eagles all day, and that was Big Dom becoming a trending topic nationwide, and hopefully his autism shirts sell out tomorrow because of all the new notoriety. But what was said in the meeting, and explain to us from the referee's angle what happened.
Yeah, so I spoke to Walt Anderson, who's VP of officiating, and I think that's the exact title. Let me, if you don't mind, I can pull up the exact title here. Yes, Senior Vice President of Officiating. And my first question was, why was Dom asked to leave the sideline? And he said, and I'm going to read this to you here, the officials, he gave very legalese response here.
Sure.
So I'll actually paraphrase, but the officials had a flag on the field for personal foul on Dre Greenlaw, and then there was continuing action. And so they went to look at the video, and what the video showed was that a staff person, being obviously Dom DiSandro, making contact with the player, and the player involved made contact with a staff member, and that contact rose to the level of disqualification. But because the non-player, Dom DiSandro, contributed to the escalation, he was asked to leave. Okay. Now, so a part of that question is, well, if he was ejected, why was there not a flag on the play? Well, actually, there's not allowed to be a flag on a staff member on that play, which I actually didn't know. That's Rule 9. It does not afford the ability to help the officials throwing a flag for a non-player. So a non-player cannot be non-player cannot be flagged.
What a loophole to exploit. Let your staff members tackle guys on the field. They can't be flagged.
Mike Tomlin was onto something all those years ago.
They cannot be flagged.
Wait for the Super Bowl and bust that out.
And so and Dre Greenlaw was ejected for the contact with Dom DiSandro. But a flag can only be afforded for a player action. That's what came out there. So actually his first answer kind of summed up all three answers. Then I just wanted to clarify the other things, and then I wrapped it up by saying, is there anything else about that sequence that I should know? And he said the officials did a great job keeping things from escalating further throughout the game. So that was what came out of that. Now,
what did Nick say about that sequence?
Yeah, Nick was very kind of coy about it. He said his focus was just making sure that they kept playing. He actually didn't respond specifically to that sequence. And from my understanding, now I have not seen this, but I've heard that that the television cameras after the game caught Nick apologizing to Kyle Shanahan.
It was a close embrace. We couldn't really tell what they were saying.
Yes, and so I mean, it was a weird situation all around, certainly. But Nick did not kind of say one thing or another about Dom's role in that. He simply said his focus when that happened was, all right, they need to go down and score at this situation at this point.
So Zach, question for you. Now, I don't think it's the reason why they per se lost the game. You were trailing for a lot of it, so there is context to just this many runs versus this many throws. DeAndre Swift only had 6 carries, was it? Seems a bit odd. No?
Not necessarily.
Whoa, he's throwing straight at you.
No, look, I mean, I think here, I'm going to pull up the numbers here. Look, I expected DeAndre Swift to have a bigger role in that game. I thought from like a game flow perspective, there was never a point where I said they need to start running the ball. Now I thought that actually late in the game, they were down in the red zone after the pass interference, they had a 1st and goal with the 2. I was like, why don't you just run the ball here? But I actually didn't think that the running game got away from them. I thought Devontae and AJ, and the numbers bear this out,
they were great.
Were playing really well. But look, if you want to talk about sustaining drives, certainly running the ball can get you into third and manageable situations. But like when I go back and I look at the game flow, really, excuse me, I apologize. Early in the game, it was the red zone that was the issue. And then, so as I'm looking at this, after San Francisco scored their first touchdown, Jalen Hurts gets sacked on the first play, right?
Yeah.
Now that's a situation where maybe
you basically take the run away from the Eagles.
Yeah, you certainly can run it there and get into second and manageable. So I hear you there. And in the third quarter, they start off with a run there. I can see that. Okay, certainly, yeah, there are opportunities there. There were opportunities for them to run the ball more, but I really look at it like, on these third down drives here, they had 1st down runs, both drives. And then you kind of get into, 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8. Unless you're going to run, I didn't really have an issue there. I just didn't think they were able to sustain drives as the game went on. And I thought the matchups were advantageous with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. If they were able to sustain more drives, then certainly I can see an argument for running the ball. And then by the 4th quarter, right? I mean, you're down.
Yeah.
You're down.
I guess part
scores.
of sustaining drives to me is getting the run game going. You know what I mean?
Okay, I can see that. I can certainly see that.
I'm not like banging the drum for it, but when I look at the box score and only see 6 Swift rushes, I'm like, that doesn't seem right.
I guess my counter to that is that where you really want to see that is in the second quarter, they go 3 and out, and then they have a 6 plays. So they have 2 drives when they punt the ball in the second quarter. That's where you can get the running game going. And I'll concede that point. I thought in the first quarter, look, they had 2 12-play drives. They were moving the ball. It just stalled in the red zone. So I had no issue with. I actually thought the play calling in the first quarter was sharp. I thought they had San Francisco on their heels. I thought they were moving it. So I mean, really, it was those 2 second quarter drives and then a 3 and out in the third quarter. Otherwise, they scored. It's field goal, touchdown. So you're talking about 3 drives where they can certainly get the running game going there. But when I go back and I look at this game, I didn't think like, man, if only they ran the ball, they would have won. I thought that they need to finish drive. You can't look if you force 3 and outs on back-to-back drives in the first quarter, and you get down to the red zone both those times, it can't be a 6-0 game. A team as good as San Francisco, you need to go up 14 points there. The fact that it's 6-0 when you dominated the first quarter of the game, that's where this game got away from. And then so when I look back, like I say, they did not take advantage of the way they came out. Actually, Jason Kelce was asked, like, did you match San Francisco's intensity? Because obviously San Francisco was really into this game. And Kelce's response was, yeah, he thought in the first quarter, like they were the better team. And so I didn't think it was a matter of that. It was once you didn't get any distance there, that's when now Kyle Shanahan has seen what you're doing. They were able to get some offensive momentum. Like, there was no reason that game should have been 6-0 when the Eagles were outplaying them as much as they did. So that's what jumps out to me more than anything. I know situational football can kind of be like a crutch for me. I always refer to that. But you go 0-2 in the red zone in the first quarter when you force them out, when you force 2, 3 and outs, shame on you.
My last one, Zach, the last thing I want to ask you about is the guys staying in at the end of the game. And I know Serriani was asked about this. I feel like this is something of an ongoing blind spot for Nick Sirianni. It is symptomatic of the same thing with Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat playing too many snaps every week. Every game is important. I understand that, but it is his job to keep the big picture in mind. And when you are losing this game by 23 points, you do not need Jalen Hurts out on the field in a game in which he's just got checked for a concussion. You do not need DeAndre Swift out on the field to take a big hit against a kind of a dirty Niners team that's looking to do something at the end of the game. He needs to be the adult in the room there. And what did he say about keeping those guys in the game? Because I don't think that was good coaching.
Yeah, I actually agree with you there. I think he kind of said that I had to look through. I know Jalen Hurts said it was still, it's still a game there. He's still trying to play, still trying to win. And I think that was I got to listen back, but I think that was kind of Sirianni's sentiment as well. That you play your guys, and you're trying to come back in the game. But I agree when that DeAndre Swift play happened. I mean, basically right where I'm pointing. That's the exact thing I thought. Like, why are you exposing him? Jalen Hurts took some hits, like borderline after the whistle there. He got checked for concussion. Like, what's the upside here? The upside is to make it look a little better in the box score. The upside, you're down 3 scores with 5 minutes to go, 6 minutes to go. I agree with you there. I didn't find a convincing answer in the locker room, one that kind of like stuck with me to come up here. I agree. But this has kind of been his MO too, right? He typically does not take his guys out, and he doesn't run up the score, but he keeps his guys in there, win or lose. And I shared that sentiment with you.
So Zach, last one from me, and it's tough on the TV angle, and I'm sure you and Bo will get into the all 22 footage this week and get a better idea of it. But your sense up in the press box, it seemed like Jalen was holding on to the ball a lot, which is probably a credit to the Niners secondary. Were you seeing guys open that he was missing, or was the coverage and defensive design of the 49ers today really that good where he didn't have windows and to throw into?
Yeah, so when I was watching it, the sense I got, and again, I'm not a coach, I'm just playing one on the PHLY podcast here, is that the Eagles were looking for explosives today, right? They were looking for chunk plays. And I think there were multiple times when Jalen was trying to let a play develop downfield. I don't know if it's based on the look of San Francisco's defense or just kind of their objective in this game, but there were times when he did not go with the check down, or he did not go with the intermediate pass, and he was trying to make the play downfield. Even the play that he tripped on, you could see him directing AJ to try to get to the left corner. So my sense is that he was holding on the ball long. the protection was really good. I mean, I know the TV copy was showing it, but Lane Johnson, I had my binoculars on him and Bosa. And, Bosa couldn't get past him, right? There were a lot of times when Lane Johnson was playing real well, and, the protection was there, and Jalen was sitting in the pocket trying to let things develop downfield. That was the interpretation I got.
All right, Zach, what can we look forward to reading about on allphly.com?
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is look at that premise. Is the premise we were discussing a few minutes ago, that the way they were playing isn't necessarily it wasn't sustainable, and this idea that like they know how to win, the resiliency, all that I'm not taking that away from them, but that's not what you can hang your hat on. And I wrote in my column off of last week's game that, it's better than coming back from double-digit deficits. It's not going down by double-digit deficits. And I think you were seeing that here, that this is a team that has been getting by with some problematic areas. I mean, they entered this game 28th in the league in red zone defense. San Francisco was perfect in the red zone, right? The Eagles have improved their red zone defense their red zone offense this year. But just the idea that like you can fall down. This is the fifth consecutive game that they've gone down double digits. That they've been trailing at halftime. Not double digits, but trailing at halftime. You can't keep expecting to come back. So I think that I don't want to blow this game out of proportion. San Francisco is really good. The Eagles are still 10-2. They're winning an awful lot of games. But I think what it shows you is that the way they've been playing is not a sustainable way to really push deep into the postseason. And then I'll get in some reactions, some color from obviously the DiSandro incident. But I think the overarching emphasis of the column is going to be this wake-up call that they need to play better early in games, and that they can't keep counting on this idea that they're good enough to come back, because that's not a sustainable way of winning.
Zach, I lied, actually. One more. Did Jordan Mailata confront you about the candy last week? And did he dish out any more today?
He did not confront me about it.
Okay.
I spoke to him this week. Jordan,
Did
Jordan
you
actually
end up finishing that candy bar?
No, I did not. Jordan calls me Zachary, and he's one of three people who call me Zachary. My mom and my wife are the other two, and usually when they're mad at me, Jordan says it like endearingly. He'll see me in the locker room and he'll say Zachary, and so I hope he's not mad at me. Maybe he's doing it in the same way that my wife and my mother do it, right? But no, he did not approach me about the candy bar, and I will follow up with him on that.
All right. Zach Berman, thank you so much. As always, you can follow him at zberm on Twitter. Watch for his article on the game on allphly.com. And we will be here tomorrow at 4 o'clock for the Monday PHLY Eagles podcast. Zach, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And that's going to do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles post-game show. The Eagles embarrassed at home against the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
They fall 42-19. They drop to 10-2, the worst 10-2 team in the league.
I think that's definitive. We can say that. They are the worst 10-2 team ever in existence in football.
Well, I don't know if I'm going that far, but I can definitely say that they are the worst 10-2 team this year.
Okay, fair. That was a little harsh by me.
And we'll see how things go next Sunday night. The hits keep on coming. A big one in Dallas against the Dallas Cowboys. In Arlington, actually, if we're keeping to these teams not playing where they say that they play. Unlike the Philadelphia Eagles. So, an ugly game for the Eagles defense. Give up 6 straight touchdowns. Not very good, ever. And we'll see how they respond next week against the Cowboys. So, for Jamie Lynch, for all of us here at PHLY, for Zach, for Andrew, we thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We're with you all week. And as always, we love you.